All right, folks, welcome back to this edition of Against the Ropes. I'm your host, Rich Quinones, as we continue to talk about the huge event in Ontario, Canada on August 15th, courtesy of our good friends at NCWB Coliseum Boxing. When it's all said and done, we'll get a great main event, especially on paper. We'll see how it unfolds inside the ring. Olivia Gerula, who has had 4 weeks short notice to prepare to take on Kaliesha West, will cap the night off. Kind enough to join us for a couple moments this evening. Olivia, first and foremost, we appreciate a couple moments. How does it feel to have this type of card, this type of venue right in your backyard?
I'm really excited. I'm very proud to have it, one, represented my country, but it's definitely a moment in history. I'm glad to be taking part.
And I know you have such great pedigree. You've been a pro for a while now. And I like to ask some fighters, too, especially when they're going against a very good opponent, such as yourself going against Kaliesha. Do you do any prep work? Do you study film? Do you watch film? Or do you leave that up to your management team and your trainers?
I'm one of those fighters, actually, and I've got flack over the years. I don't look at my fighters. I don't watch them. My trainers and coaches have that job. They can do that.
Now, I think it's a great point. And really, when you look at your career, and you've been in the game for a while now, you had close to 30 professional fights, and you had a nice little run several years ago, and you still continuously have a good run. I know you ran into a couple tough bouts. I want to ask you about one fighter who I've covered a couple times, Ronica Jeffrey, and that was for the vacant IWBF International Women's Boxing Federation super featherweight title. That was back in May of last year. That was a tough unanimous decision. It was in White Plains, New York. What kind of threat did she pose? What kind of adjustments did you make? What weren't you able to make in that one? Because I know on paper, I thought that was a great matchup between two very skilled and experienced fighters.
It really was, and you know what? Maybe that fight would have been a game changer, and I stuck it out and tried to win that fight, and I just couldn't get it done. And it wasn't, if you watch that fight, I think it was much closer than a unanimous decision by all means, but that's how every fighter thinks, right? But case in point, she was a really good boxer. I never underestimate anybody. I knew what I was stepping in for, but I also knew myself that I was ready. It just didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. There wasn't anything different I would do to go into it. I just maybe would have taken it up a few more notches before the fight last bell went.
And what do you know, what kind of scouting report have you been given on West? The game plan going in, is it a feeling out process? Obviously, I don't want you to give the whole game plan to the listening audience, but is it because that would be foolish of me to think that covering the sport as long as I have been. But
I know she's coming with a jab. I know she's got a nice left hook. I do not care. I wish to counter. So we've got game plan in there, sure, but with 8 rounds, I am a distance fighter. 10 rounds isn't much. So an 8 round, I know I got to pick it up a little bit faster, so I won't have time to feel it out. I expect to go from bell to bell and take my breaks in a minute when I get it in the water.
Yeah, and that's why I asked, because like I said, I've seen a number of your fights, and I know you're very aggressive, but like you alluded to, when someone can stick that jab right out in the very beginning and set the stage and the tone for the bout, you're an experienced enough fighter where you have no problems making an adjustment. I go back to the Jeffrey fight because I did think it was closer than they scored it. But again, later on in that fight, to get her jab off a little more, score a little more at a higher successful rate. And that's kind of the reason I was wondering, because this is an 8-round fight, which I think it's perfect, 8 or 10 rounds. So I don't foresee this, even though if you both bang heads, I can see this going the distance. And it's interesting too, because both of you guys have that championship pedigree. So we know in those championship rounds, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th round, so to speak, that's when you really kind of
so good.
Exactly right, and that's where you actually see what fighter is going to rise to that occasion. When you look at the state of female boxing right now, obviously you just see the influx. You see a lot more younger girls partake. You see more amateurs. A lot of them decide not to turn pro. They want a shot at the Olympics because they understand what that gold medal represents also financially going forward in the future per se. And I always talk about this with the Olympics and the weight classes. I like to see more of a competitive balance from the men and the women, because it's tougher if you only have a couple weight classes. It's tougher for you girls to go up in weight, to come down. It's just not healthy, and quite frankly, it's bush league. It's not fair. That being said, though, in your backyard in Canada, how has been the growth of female boxing, and what do you like? What have you seen that you like, and what are some of the things that you like to see maybe you girls get a little more assistance and help in the sport?
I may be almost like a bystander in that regard. I'm very much focused on my career and what I'm doing. I don't very much follow other women around. In my career in my city in Winnipeg, I am at the top of the ranks. There's really not very many women that I can even spar with. It's all men, right? Most of the fights and all the rest of it has been all through states or in Europe or wherever. So I know in that regard, I would definitely like to have women's boxing be more prominent in Canada and here at home as well. As far as the up-and-coming boxers, that's the one thing that I've noticed is when I started out in boxing almost, 17 years ago, almost 18, there was a lot of fighters just like myself who came from kickboxing, right, and just jumped into it.
Yep.
And now there's a lot more higher skill level, more people who are coming from a really decorated amateur background that are coming up. So those young fighters that are coming that are really skilled, which is really nice to see. So that's something I'm enjoying as well.
Yeah, and you're right. And some of you girls also have MMA backgrounds, Muay Thai backgrounds, where you're just making that.
They're jumping into MMA now as well, right? You're kind of jumping between sports. And as far as the Olympics go, I'm really happy that is now part of the Olympic Games. I'm very disappointed that I wasn't able to compete before it turned, right? But I think it might change things. Amateurs will stay down a little bit longer, but I think, again, the quality of fighters coming up will be good. So something to look forward to in the next 5 years.
What should we expect come August 15th and what I believe is going to be a wonderful night? Give us a little insight, or from your perspective, as soon as that opening bell, it's an all-out war. What should we expect?
You know what? I am being the predator by my technique. I stalk. I go after my prey, so expect me to be on attack. I do, of course, know how to fight backing up, and I'll do that if she can pressure me. Otherwise, I hope to pin her in the corner and wail. We'll see how it goes. I expect blood. It may be some of my own, but I'm hoping it's some of hers too. Before
we let you get out of here, I always like to give you guys an opportunity to plug any social media aspects, any websites, any foundations that you might do some work for. So have at it as we close things out.
I am honestly the most least used technology person there. I do not own Facebook. I do not do Twitter. I do none of it. I don't blog. I have an email address. That's about it. So thank you for the opportunity. But that's it. I do keep things posted on oliviathepredator.com, but that's about it. And I haven't had time to vamp that either.
Well, you know what? Again, I'm going for that. I'm going for that early knockout. I figure we tried to get that out of the way early on in this one, but since it was a good interview, I figured I'd give you that opportunity later on. Well, look, always appreciate it. I know it's going to be a wonderful card. It's going to be a wonderful night. I look forward to calling it ringside with you guys, and it should be a great main event as well. And we appreciate a couple moments. I'm going to see you soon.
Wonderful. Look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
So there you have it. We appreciate a couple moments with Olivia Gerula, who will be taking on Kaliesha West. That will be the main event to cap off a great night of boxing August 15th at the Crown Plaza in Quebec, Ontario, in conjunction with NCWB Coliseum Boxing. I'll be calling the action ringside. All right, folks, that's going to do it for another edition of Against the Ropes. Do not forget to follow me on Twitter, RichQ Check out our Tumblr profile on Q Sports. You can also check us out and follow us on Instagram. But more importantly, definitely subscribe and follow all the YouTube clips. You can Google Rich Quinones, MMA, boxing, combat sports, and all the great clips, and also all these audio interviews of all these wonderful boxers that we'll see in action in several weeks will be up online and running as well. All right, as always, enjoyed a couple moments with everyone this evening. We'll talk to you next time ringside.